Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am greeting you in a way that you're watching it. So, listen, today I want to talk about the feels of, you know, um, the chains being broken. I talked about, God breaking chains. I talked about you working with God, breaking the chains. But I also want to talk about the feels of it because I don't want to paint this picture and then you're like, okay, God is working with me, I'm working with him, but she didn't talk about these feelings that I'm feeling because they're very much real. And I can only speak the truth. I can only be realistic. I can only be transparent because I know what it feels like, especially when I was in the beginning of my journey. God was, working with me, developing my character, teaching me who he is, showing me his love and also helping me just becoming who he wanted me to be. So, and in that process, like I had so many emotions. The emotions was heavy. The emotions was honestly, sometimes it was hard for me to fathom, like, bro, I can't believe I'm feeling this right now. Like it was, and I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to be realistic with you so you can, and relatable, because my biggest thing when I was going through it, I'm like, yo, I can only imagine if somebody else was feeling this. I can only imagine if somebody else was experiencing this and just didn't have that, connection. Cause I was going through and I'm like, yo, I feel like I can't really connect to anybody right now. I don't know if they're feeling this, or would be able to understand these feelings that I'm feeling, or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, yo, I can only imagine. So in that moment, I vowed to myself, I'm like, listen, when I make it through, this is something that I'm going to be talking about because I want people to know that they're not alone, for one, for two, to know that they have somebody and that it's it's relatable on certain circumstances. Like I'm gonna say it's relatable, especially if you are someone that is like, has had the encounter with God, you're transitioning. So, people that is like really picking up their cross and really, transitioning and changing and developing and things of that nature, it's real, So and I'm just like, yo, and that's what made me start my videos. But yes, I want to talk about the feels of it because it is deep. It is deep, and I'm going to explain why it's deep. It's not just. Let me just get into it. The feels from breaking chains. So I put oftentimes we'll be mourning through this process. So a lot of the times we are going to be mourning. We're going to be mourning, not even just, and I want to, separate the two, not even just sin, just the things that you're feeling, the things that you're enduring, the things that you are separating from. This could be family members. This could be, just anything, relationships, just everything that is going through the process. As you're going through the process, this is something that your spirit and you're going to be mourning. You're going to be feeling many different emotions because of the transition and the things that that is not going to be the same. And even then, the things that you experience, because a lot of the time, honestly, when I was in my not was, but when in the beginning of my journey, I experienced many different things. And this was just God revealing things and showing me, like, okay, this is something that is going to be changing. This is something that is no longer going to be the same. For example, like betrayal. I experienced a couple different betrayals, and that was, an indicator, like, okay, this is not going to be the same. It was to the point where that relationship wasn't salvageable. That relationship wasn't going to be able to rebuild itself. Of course, there's going to be forgiveness. Of course, there's going to be love and, no ill will, but the relationship wasn't going to be the same. And through that, that's also a period of you mourning that, like, bro. And it could be very much someone very close to you. Like it can be your significant other, it can be a relative, it can be like your kids, it can be anybody, so it's a lot of different things that you're going to be mourning. So I just want to say, like, this doesn't mean that you're not progressing on your journey. If you're feeling these emotions, this is, I want to say, is not normal, but I want to say it's normal on a spiritual perspective, because this is something that you're going to have to endure and you're going to have to go through, to get to that other, to the milk and honey. So yes. So I put here, ones who has not decided to do it through the flesh, but the spirit will sustain you. So what I'm saying here is that sometimes we want to make change on our own, in our flesh, you know how that go. Like, if we can be realistic and transparent, there's many times we try to attempt stuff in our flesh, and a lot of the times we really don't really get a chance to sustain it, or it doesn't really come to fruition, because we're doing everything through our flesh, through our own strength, through our own might. But when we are doing this, when we are going through our chain breaking experience, and it's through our spirit, the spirit is going to sustain you, regardless of what emotions that you feel, regardless if you feel anger, regardless if you feel, anxious, regardless if you feel fearful, regardless if you feel like, all of that. The spirit is going to be there where you can draw strength from. And even then, you're going to have that sense of endurance, that sense of perseverance. Like, it's going to be in your spirit, like, nah, I got to keep on going. Like, I'm going to continue on this path. So yeah. I put here, spiritually, this is a heavy experience. Like, it's a heavy experience. You cannot, I want to say, give yourself grace, because in this period, in this time, it's heavy. It's heavy. You're going from a time of something that you once knew, everything was already put in place. Because we're talking about you in the world, you with your family, everything was it was normal. You know what I'm saying? And then once you make that transition and God is beginning to break things off of you, things are going to shift. And you no longer, things that once was normal, is not normal in the spirit. And that's something that is going to have to be broken. It's going to have to be changed. It's going to have to be shifted. It's going to have to be separated. Like, so it's a heavy experience. And that's something that a lot of people have to, keep that in mind. Like, this is something that is going to be changing, and it's going to be the new normal. So, and sometimes people, it's hard for them to accept. It's hard for them to accept. And I want to, I put down here, this goes into my point. I'm talking in regard to Ruth and her sister-in-law. Those two, you can tell, listen, Ruth was okay after everything that she has lost. Okay, including the sister-in-law, she lost the same thing. But Ruth was okay with making that change. She was okay with stepping out on faith. Completely, you said, you know what? I don't care what I used to know. I don't care about the familiar. I'm going to step out, and this is what it is. As opposed to the sister-in-law. She's like, nah, I'm going to go back to my family. I'm going to go back to what I know. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you have two different people. You have people, that is in the change. And then once they see that, things really do have to change, it's either they're going to make that decision to say, you know what, I'm going to continue to move forward. Whatever needs to be changed, this is going to be changed. And that's that. Or you're going to say, you know what, I can't do this. This is a little intense. It's heavy. And then, that's when you go back to what you know. So yes, I just want to say, give yourself grace. If you're someone that is like, okay, this is what it is, this is what I'm choosing God, I'm picking my side, I'm picking up my cross, and I'm following him. Whatever is revealed to me, I'm going to separate from. I am going to do what is required. Then give yourself some grace, because it is a lot. And feel those emotions. Don't just harbor them up. Feel those emotions, go to God, into him, lay it at his feet. And even then, this is something that you're going to be learning, because I want to be in a perspective of you, because you're in your beginning. All this is happening in the beginning. So I want to say, things that I'm speaking now, you're going to be learning. You're not going to already know. So this is why I'm saying, give yourself grace. Feel those emotions, and then, go into prayer. So yes, I put here, many will be called to separate for many things that's rooted in them. So, and that's why I said it's heavy. You're going to have to separate from things that is rooted in you. We're talking about, like, like I said, family, connections, all of that. Shoot, marriage. You never know at what age that you're in, like, that you're being called into closer, closeness with God, and you may be married, and then God may reveal to you that you're in the wrong marriage. So it's heavy. It's heavy, and you're gonna have to make some tough decisions. It is tough, and that's why some people say, you know what, I don't know. I don't think this is for me, and it's not like, I don't know, but some people they just can't, because it is tough. You're going to have to make them tough decisions. You're going to have to really be accountable, and intentional. So, yeah. I put here, this will or could trigger a crisis, as if you're doing it all wrong, simply because you may be going against the grain. So a lot of the times, like I said, if you're being called closer to God and God is not revealing to you, because this goes into breaking chains, and this goes into healing, this goes into all of that. So if God is calling you closer and he's revealing certain things, and he's telling you, like, listen, this is not it. You're going to have to separate from this. You're going to have to, detach from this, sometimes it will be like a trigger. It will be like as if like you're having like a crisis. You'd be like, bro, hold on, wait. Like, because so much is changing. So much is being called to change. And you're, everything is being disrupted in your life. Everything that you once knew as a reality, that everything was in its place. Now everything is being shaken up. You're like, hold on, wait. Nothing seems normal now. Now, who you once used to be connected to, you're no longer connected to. Who you once used to be married to, you're no longer married to. So a lot of the things that you're rooted in, because sometimes we find identity in who who we're connected to and how our life is, when things become shaken up and be separated from us, sometimes we don't know who we are. And that's also being revealed too. And that's why I say, it can, sometimes you will or could feel like a crisis, because sometimes you realize, bro, I don't really know who I am. And then that's when God get into finding your identity in him. I hope that, begins to make sense to you, and it all comes together, so yeah. And that's what I said, it's a lot, like, and this is all the stuff that I learned, like, everything that I talk about in these videos is like, these are personal experiences, like, not even like personal, but also things that God has given me revelation in regards of too. But I'm never going to speak on something that I don't know or that I really haven't experienced, because then it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be real, I feel like I can deliver more, direct and intentional, and have a little bit more, information to give, that's relatable, so you guys can actually understand and like really draw from. So all this is like, this is real, and this is why I wanted to talk about it, because it wouldn't be right of me for me to, because let's be realistic, if I'm making my videos and you guys are watching it, you guys are, taking what you take from it, then I'm not painting the full picture. I want to paint the full picture, so if I'm drawing you, if I'm pointing you to Christ, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go, and then you now on your journey, you're like, hold on, wait, I'm feeling these crazy emotions. I didn't expect that. And now you are, a babe in Christ. This means like, you're new on your journey. Now you're like, okay, you could be like the sister-in-law. You're like, this is not for me, When all I'm gonna just say, really trust in God. Don't worry about, Nothing else. If you really forgot, then nothing will be able to shake you, even if it's tough. Because let me tell you, even though I had some really, really challenging times. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, there's gonna be a time when you have a moment where you be like, yo, should I turn back? Like, I would say I had it one time because it was so intense. I'm like, and that's the most pivotal, time in your journey, when you have that thought and you be like, should I turn back? And when you have that thought, if you have that thought, please think of me and listen, take this. Don't. Because you do more harm turning back than to keep on moving forward. And the only reason why I say that is because you didn't came this far. And that's what I'm like, yo, you came way too far. Way too far to turn back. Like, God has delivered you from many different things. You have now, begun to develop your character, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So, yeah. So, yeah, so I'm just saying, like, things are being called and shaken up. You're going to feel like you're going against the grain. And I remember that time too where I felt like I was literally going against the grain. I'm like, yo, God, like, why do I feel like I'm going against the grain? Like, everything that I was deciding, that I was choosing, was literally going against everything else. It was like I was completely rebelling against life. Like, and it's going to feel like that. But let's be realistic. Let me even paint the picture for that. We're living in a world that is of the flesh. So anything that we choose that is of God, it's going to feel like you're going against the grain, because we're of a world that is walking in the flesh. So what you may choose is completely different. And this is why God say you'll become peculiar. You'll be different. You'll be different. Because everything that you say, everything that you do will be like abstract from the world. Like, seriously. So yes, I put here, the feels will be coming from the changes and all that you're experiencing. So, but like, that's just me reinforcing what I was saying. Like, what you're feeling is just coming from everything that you're experiencing and everything that you're changing. It's like, yeah. So it's like a double duo. Like I said, like, even when I was like, God was changing me, I was still in the midst of having betrayals happen to me. So even though God was showing me he was healing me and, breaking off chains off of me, I was also having experience in a world where people were betraying me. So you see how that worked? So I'm having experiences and things are changing. So yeah, it can be intense. It can be heavy, and I want this video to really touch your heart. I want this video to really be something that you can, relate to and be like, yo, I feel you and I'm going through this, and thank you, for sharing this to make me feel like I'm not crazy, because sometimes you'd be like, yo, like, why, what? So like I said, sometimes you can't feel them, and you be like, yo, I can't believe I'm even feeling this. I'm experiencing this. Like, what is happening? What's happening? Yeah. So I hope this video really, really, like, gives you comfort, brings you support, brings you understanding, revelation, or whatever the case may be. Just let that video be that for you, please. So hear me out on this one. So I put, fear may be the biggest one. And I go into detail here. Now, God doesn't deal with fear. And I'm jumping ahead, but I want to put this out here. Listen, God doesn't deal with fear. We know this, right? But this is for, when you get to this part is for people that is beginning in their journey, that's going through their changes and things of that nature. You could be very much unaware of God not dealing with fear, and you're having this fear. And I just want to say, It's normal only because, let me read it here. I'm going to put it here. I'll put here, we all know God does not deal with fear, but in this perspective, you are newly walking, and you will be learning and identifying this. So this part is for people that don't really know that, haven't been in the Bible yet, haven't got to the Bible, got to that part in the Bible yet where God doesn't deal with fear. He gives you the spirit of power, love, and sound mind. Okay. So, but still, hear me out. So this is what I'm saying. Our flesh has full control in the world. So during chains breaking, you're breaking control of the flesh. This is where the fear come in at. So when you're breaking out of the flesh and you're trying to go into your spiritual walk, you are going to feel fear because your flesh deals with emotion. Your flesh deals with control. Your flesh deals with all of that. So when you're breaking away from the flesh, automatically you're going to feel, it's going to trigger that emotion in the flesh where you're going to be feeling that. And it's until you sustain yourself in the your spiritual walk with Christ that you begin to become aware that God doesn't deal with fear, for one, and he begins to solidify you in your spirit and begins to feed you your strength. Okay? So yes, a lot of the times when we're beginning our walk, and I can go so much deeper in that too. So like a lot of the times when we're beginning our walk and we're feeling fear, like I said, if we're breaking away and we're trying to, if you're newly on your journey, you're breaking away, trying to come into your spiritual walk, your flesh is going to trigger that. Your flesh is going to feel that. Automatically it's going to fear because it doesn't know. We naturally want to know what is happening. So if we don't know what's happening, we're going to feel fear. On top of that, another reason why you could feel fear, it could be the enemy trying to make you feel fear and trying to make you stop you from transitioning from from your flesh to your spiritual walk. So that can be another, and it can be intense. It can be many things that is happening that's going to trigger that. So this is something that I want you to know. And if you're feeling this could be one of the reasons why. Two things: spiritual attack, where the enemy is trying to come up against you, make you feel that, to make you stop trying to transition to your spiritual walk, you breaking that, you breaking and separating from your flesh to your spiritual. So, and that could be triggering it too, because your flesh wants to be in control. So yes. I hope I dropped the point. So yes, many things will come with breaking the control of flesh, because that's where the emotions have place and value. Okay, so listen, your flesh, and this is why it says, like, listen, your flesh will war against your spirit, and your spirit is warring against your flesh. Okay, because your flesh wants you to stay in there. It wants its desires and pleasures fulfilled. Okay, so when you are trying to separate from that and you're trying to deny your flesh and separate from your flesh is going to war, especially if it's been in a position where it has its way. So if it's been in a position where it's been having its way for 30 years, well, I'm going to start from 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, however old you are, then hence it's going to be intense, because your flesh is so used to getting what it wants. It's so used to you submitting to your flesh. Now, when you're like, hold up, you're about to submit to me, it has a problem. So that's why them emotions be like, okay, it's raging, because your emotions it's associated with your flesh. It's not associated with your spirit. So yes. To speak to the spirit, God doesn't give you the spirit of fear. He gives you the spirit of power, love, and sound mind. Okay? So I just want to say that to you. This is not to, scare you. This is not to give you, place fear. None of that. Because God doesn't give you that. He gives you a spirit of power, love, and sound mind. And I want this to, connect to your spirit. I want this to, connect to your soul, because I know that it's real. It's very much real. And I know what it feels like. And that's why I put the feels, okay? Because I know what it feels like. And it's very daunting. It's very, emotional. I was emotional. I'm like, listen, I cried to God a lot when I was going through this, and it wasn't, I'm gonna be realistic. I did miss, some of the relationships that he separated me from, but I was okay, because I knew, for one, the person that I was in the world, I wasn't my best version of myself, and I knew that. And it was simply because of certain relationships. So once God gives you that revelation in regards of, like, who you were and where it stemmed from, like, you will be okay with certain changes. But it's still, it's still an emotional experience, because this is something that is changing. And us as humans, it's difficult for us to experience change and then it be permanent, so especially when it's coming from, it's life changing, because this is life changing. This is something that is going to be sustained for the rest of your life, so yeah, I hope this video was edifying for you. And I just put here, like, let's not forget Ruth. She had to leave her familiar to get her portion. After everything that she experienced, she was okay with, beginning new. And we can only imagine the emotions. If you don't know where that is, that's over there in Ruth, so yeah, if you don't know, I can only imagine her emotions through everything that she experienced, through everything that she endured. Like, she still had the courage, she still had the faith, she still had the strength, to say, you know what, I'm not going to stay with my familiar. I'm going to travel, and I'm going to go to a place, a new place, and I'm okay with whatever is to come. And she told her mother-in-law, like, listen, I believe what you believe. I trust what you trust. So yes, I hope this video was edifying. I hope this video really, really connects with your spirit. I hope it connects with your soul. Like, I hope it brought revelation to you. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and comment.